I was trying to explain this the other day to a friend of mine, but I just couldn't find the right words. I'd spent some time in the military, and I kind of put the two together, and I was kind of amazed. You know, we grow up on Hollywood, and Hollywood produces a visual media unlike most other forms of media. And we're expecting to see something when we go to movies. We're not expecting to just look at a blank screen. And when an explosion goes off, the reality is there's not much of a signature. You don't actually get a giant fireball. The fireball is meant for pyrotechnics to put in place so that when you see an explosion on the big screen, it makes you see something, because in reality, in a real bomb, you don't see much. It's a very underwhelming experience when I stepped on an M203 range, which is our grenade launcher, and I was excited. Oh yeah, we're gonna shoot these things, cool, right? And they literally, it was like a pop. You didn't see any visual signature at all in terms of fireball, but what you did see, or what you did feel, was the concussion. And that's typically what does the damage. The blast wave, the concussion, that's the stuff that does the damage, not the big fireball. But Hollywood can't show that because everybody would be so bored and underwhelmed that who gives a crap about explosions, right? So they always add something to it. They put gas in it, they put fuel in it, they do different things to make it a big visual signature. But in reality, it's a waste of material if you're trying to put that type of stuff into a real bomb. Yes, some bombs are made out of fuel. Some bombs are made out of aluminum nitrate and fuel oil. But the majority of that weapon is not designed to create a giant fireball. It's just designed to create more destruction. And you're not going to get more out of fuel, typically, than what other things can do. So I was trying to explain this to him, and it was really difficult for me to get to the right words. But this is I had to do a little bit of research because I wanted to put together something that actually sort of makes sense. And this is basically it. This makes sense to me. We do have some amazing catastrophic weapons in our arsenal, but for the most part, we're not creating giant fireballs. And when something hits, it does damage. I had a TOW-2 Bravo, which was a missile that was attached to the Bradley fighting vehicle, and it's designed to be a tank killer, meaning I aim my I aim my TOW missile right at the point where the turret and the chassis meets. And what it typically does, it will damage the vehicle in the turret area enough so that the tank becomes useless. But it doesn't really pop the top off of a tank. It doesn't do this giant explosion. Most of the people on the inside are going to be alive, but their tank will be incapacitated. So really, we don't care about that after then. They can't shoot at us anymore. We're good. And a lot of stuff that we used was kind of underwhelming, but it does do real damage. It's just not as fun, I guess, as you see on the big screen. Anyway, these are some different shots that were taken of Ukraine, and I feel for those people. I feel for everybody on all sides, even, you know, both sides. It's not something that's pleasant. It would be nice if it was all done and stuff. But anyway, to use these supposedly, to use these images that are from real life and comparing them to the Hollywood explosion, that's kind of what I was going with here. And I'm not trying to show destruction or make people hurt. This was mostly a video about what's real and what's not. And I think we're not seeing reality a lot of times, especially in Hollywood. But it is impactful, You want a visual media, so you want to see it. You want to see the explosion. You don't want to hear it, because that's not enough. Anyway, take a look. And hopefully you can compare some of these with your own experiences, if you have any experience in that. Even controlled demolition. which is an extremely expensive process. It takes these guys months of preparation. They have to put all the stuff in the right place. They even do some internal deconstruction work before they blow it all up, so it falls in the right direction and all that stuff. It's not something you don't just throw a bomb at a building and the whole thing falls down. And beyond that, you don't throw aluminum cans at buildings and expect the building to fall down. So, you got to have the right thing. And I was thinking about this the other day too. What if we launched an egg like Mach 7? Could it penetrate something? And I realized the truth of it would be no. An egg would never fly through the air at Mach 7 because it would explode on the friction of the air. It would blow up before you even made it to your target. So the bombs have to be made out of the right stuff. They have to be able to penetrate. We make some really interesting weapons, some bunker busters, which will go through like 18 foot of cement and then get inside the bunker. And then the second explosion happens, and then it blows up the rest of the bunker. Pretty amazing stuff, but again, it's not Hollywood. It doesn't look like a big fireball. It's not like 10,000 gallons of fuel just flying through the air and debris just going like wherever. It's actually pretty tame in a lot of respects. So don't get used to Hollywood. Rambo's not true. None of the stuff you see in Hollywood is real. And this stuff that I'm showing you now, this is what really happens. I mean, if you built a building out of 5,000 tanks, like if you could build a building with the same armament of 5,000 tanks, do you think one of these missiles would do any damage to it? I mean, you just saw some of what the real damage is. This is real stuff, right? I don't think a missile will do that to like a building made of 5,000 fucking tanks. 5,000 armored tanks. That's how much material is in some buildings. Um, Hell, the World Trade Center has 23 Yankee stadiums worth of concrete, and an aluminum can blew it up. So I hope they go back to the drawing board with buildings, because obviously we can't make them the way they made them out of the Twin Towers. I mean, we're setting everybody up for failure. You'll never be able to get down in time. They could just throw a rock at the building and it's going to fall down. Hell, you could even just sneeze on it and it'd probably fall down. So we need to make it out of more armor. We need more. We need like 10 billion armored tanks, and then the building will stand. But probably still stand, but I don't know, aluminum cans will go through anything, just like an egg would go through anything. So now, don't get me wrong. I fought for this country. I want this country to do well. I just sometimes when I look at the stuff that's being shown, I think we have to realize that not all of it is 100% accurate. And if it only comes from one source, and that's the only source, then you really have no other place to go for information. And it doesn't sit comfortably in your head because you have no other answer. Well, take a look at some of these things. Now you have another answer. There might be something else going on, and if you haven't thought about it by now, I mean, it's 20 years later. I mean, if you haven't thought about it by now, and it happens a lot in history. Governments continuously do this to their people. People in power continue to do this to their people. People that think they're upholding some strong moral boundary or some useful thing. I thought I was doing the right thing by being over there, and what the hell? Look at this shit. I mean, and nobody's really stomping their feet. Most of the people just want to go along with it. It's the official story. Most of the people want to say America's great. Let's just go with it, and I love that. But you got to look at some other things. This is not just subversion right here. This is reality. This is facts being thrown in your face, and most people don't even want to look up from the feeding trough or from their mind control device. They just want to go along with it, and I think we've done a disservice to our people if that's the way they want to treat us. And I don't agree with holding people down that way. If you're the best, it'll be obvious. If you're a liar, it probably will be fairly obvious once you look through it. And people say that you can't. I think Benjamin Franklin had a quote: "3 people can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead." Well, do you know how many people were involved in the Manhattan Project? 77,000. It encompassed 3 countries, 18 cities, and 77,000 people. And yet somehow, some way, that information didn't escape. That information stayed internal, even as we're being infiltrated by Russian spies, which we knew about 4 or 5 of them were Russian spies, but one just got posthumously awarded one of Russia's highest medals after he died, and that was like just a couple years ago. And we didn't know that that guy was part of the spy network within the Manhattan Project. We didn't even know anything about it. So we don't even know sometimes what's really going on. We had Americans selling secrets to Russians at the time, and yet still 77,000 people were able to keep their mouths shut long enough so that the whole world didn't know what was going on. So yeah, people can lie. Governments can lie. Governments can get away with this shit. And this is what we do. We just sit there and we go, oh, that can't be. That's not true. You're just anti-American. I fought for the damn country. I'm not anti-American. I'm anti-bullshit. I'm anti-lies. I'm anti-this crap. One of these buildings right here has ballistic protection. Can you guess which one it was? It was the one that had the most damage, and it was hit by an aluminum can. Well, we just think there's a big problem with all that. Anyway, have a nice day. I wanted to show you some of these things. Just a little fed up with how we've treated our history. Thank you. Bye.
This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?